Ta-da! What's my good cheer? Welcome, everybody. Let's give YouTube a couple of minutes, get those notifications out. In the meantime, if you've never popped into one of my lives, you'd know by now that I sometimes show up on my own time. And I was so into some great news. Well, in some of those interests and some of those hobbies that I have, I like to stay on top of new discoveries, new archaeological discoveries. I love history. I right now I'm in the Neolithic. I'm in looking at Neanderthals. I'm looking at Denisovans or right. Oh, they want a Homo. Uh, they are wanting to change the name on a discovery now that there's some more information on a skull that was found. Well, it was actually found over 100 years ago, but I was so into it. I just didn't want to end. And then all of a sudden, my sister's sending me messages because we got a big garage sale going on tomorrow, and I lost track what I was doing, and I don't even know where that video is, and I wasn't even finished it. But I'm sure if I can write Google big news or new discoveries, it's going to be huge, you guys. There's so many discoveries when it comes to archaeology, when it comes to our actual own history, right? Social anthropology, I didn't understand as a child and as a teenager because I've always loved history, but I always thought I loved archaeology. And because I didn't delve any further in it in school, I never got to understand truly what it was about archaeology that I really loved. I love the story. I love the mystery. I love what we didn't understand. And I actually loved the understanding of what was mankind like 1,000 years ago, 10,000, 40,000, 100,000, a million years ago. We have been around for so long, and there are so many great discoveries going on right now, and it's only going to get better and better and better, and it's going to get to the point where it speaks for itself. The evidence is in these discoveries because technology and innovation, this digital age, this age of AI learning, is moving so fast, right? Even somebody who doesn't have to do the work, that just gets to sit here and, right, watch things being presented as evidence to the world, that it's still a lot. It's still so much because it is always coming at us. But that's evolution, you guys. This is what we have to keep up with. We have to keep up with it. Otherwise, we're going to fall behind. And I do believe that this next stage of evolution calls for us to expand, that we are going into this next stage of evolution, and our brains are getting really really big now. So I can't imagine that we're going to be able to, right, what do you call that, compound files like we do right out in the cloud, that these compressed files of our brains are going to need some space, right? And well, that's going to be kind of painful in childbirth, right? But can you imagine in that stage where we went from, maybe Neanderthals to Homo sapiens, our pelvic bones got so small in moving upright, getting that good posture. And who's to say that that's good posture? It's different posture. It's just built for the human beings that we're at right now. You can see how excited I am. I just love this stuff. And I love theorizing in this. And it's not right. Theorizing is different than conspiracy theories. Conspiracy theories is just digging up dirt and throwing stuff up against the wall and seeing what sticks and tit for tat and oh, let's stir this pot up. Let's ruin these relationships and let's take this guy's life savings away from him, right? In digging up something that's only meant to drum up and dig up attention, right? And it's different because this is actually this is actually all tied in, right? It's going to help us better transition, better understand. Just understanding makes things so much easier to live with, doesn't it? For myself, lots of times I just want to know, right? I just want to know. And if it's bad, but you know what? I still want to know, right? Because just knowing makes it so that we have that opportunity to absorb that which we stepped into and course correct ourselves and make it so that we don't do it again. Okay, you guys. Cindy, bring it back to the main branch of the tree. It is the end of the night. I am, like I said, pretty excited, and I don't know if any of you guys are interested in this story, Dragon Man. They finally got all the DNA all sorted out. Technically, they cannot grab DNA off of any skeletons or bones or skulls that are more than about 1.2, 1.6 million years old. So a lot of what we do is in the guesswork and putting in the puzzles. But, in science and in archaeology, which is part of that science, we have to be specific. We have to be on point. We have to have the truth because nobody is going to absorb anything except the truth because we are going to be asking them to give up the truth that they've carried for the most part of their lives. And, this is what science does. And we don't want to believe in a lot of it. We push it away. We call them crack quack cases, and you have no idea what you're talking about, and in all actuality, without these people who are willing to take these little bit of what is it? It's really a denial is what it is. So people are just digging their heels in and they don't want to accept the truth, so they'll always, especially if they've absorbed something else that they really believe is the truth, they will throw everything but the kitchen sink at that person that's trying to present something as something else to maybe munch on, to take a look at. We all should be willing to accept the truth when it faces us and when it's presented. So, Dragon Man um, is a skull that was found actually almost 100 years ago in the 30s. They call it Dragon Man because it was found on the Dragon River in southeastern China. Yeah, and the person who found it, right? He knew it was something special and he hid it away, but he was all freaked out because um, at that time, Peking Man had gone missing. It was one of the very first archaeological um, finds when it comes to skeletal remains of ancient humans, archaic humans that don't have anything familiar, maybe a couple of genes that we share in that interbreeding that we do. Sorry about the hands today. Right? But maybe in that little bit of interbreeding that, these different species of humans they had together, there is a little bit of admixture, like every human has, between, 2 and 6% of Neanderthal in them. Not most people, right? Like 2 to 3%. But there are people that have a little bit more. And most of these people are from like the Philippines and those countries in the tropics, right? So anyway, they have this skull. It was right. It was a whole skull. So far for the Denisovans, all they have found is a little bone in the baby finger of a Denisovan, and they found a little piece of a jaw and a little piece of the cranium, right? Not really much, and it's so hard to remove the DNA from these bones to analyze. And like I said, science, you have to be bang on, right? The science community will not accept anything that they don't have to face, right? So anyway, this gentleman who found this skull, Dragon Man, he took it home and he dropped it in his well, and it wasn't brought up until almost the 2000s. It was brought up out of that wall. Well, he told his family on his deathbed, and the family grabbed it and right and handed it in to the museums, and but they hadn't had testing done on it or anything. They weren't quite sure what kind of skull it was. They were kind of hoping it was a Denisovan. But, without those tests and not being able to get the DNA out of these bones, and it was a very difficult process, you guys. They have had this skull now for at least 4 or 5 years. So, they were very specific. Today, they announced that it's a Denisovan. The evidence is there. It's a Denisovan. How exciting is that? An entire skull. And this skull is very unique and it is very interesting. And Denisovans lived at the same time as humans did. Neanderthals, Denisovans, Homo sapiens, and probably a few more. They say maybe 15 different species of humans were living at the same time. The Neanderthals disappeared about the same time as when the humans entered entered into Europe, right? Entered Europe. So around 40,000 years ago, they disappeared, but not wholly disappeared because they are still in our DNA. It's pretty exciting. I love archaeology. I never, you guys, got to chase down any of my dreams. This dream, I'm chasing it down. I make it as simple for myself. I incorporate it into my life the best that I can so that there's no chance of it that I am going to give up on this dream. And you know what? It might not ever come to fruition, but you know what? At least I can say that I never gave up on my dream. Say, Cindy, what is your dream? Well, that dream is mine, right? That dream is mine. And wouldn't it be amazing that when it did come to fruition, that I could actually bring up, because it's written down. I don't write a lot down because I believe that, right, it's in here. If it's in here, it's safe. You write it, you speak it, right? Smoke signal, whatever it is. that it will be picked up. And some of it is just for my own growth. I come in here and I share what I know will help. And if it doesn't help the majority, it may help one person. I have gotten so many of those little one hit wonders. Oh, that's a good way of putting it too, because that's what they are, right? Because some of these people have so few subscribers. Some of these people, they posted that video 10 years ago and gave up the year later, but that video's still there and I picked it up, right? That little one hit wonder. And maybe possibly it was something that was just for me. There's lots of stuff that I haven't brought to the surface. Not that it'll ever not ever be brought to the surface. It's just in the moment, it's just not being brought to the surface. Right? But there's lots. Cindy can jibber jabber. And I know that a lot of what I mix in, a lot of those turnips, right? That we mix in with the mashed potatoes so we can get it down. And I come in and I do that baby steps and I bring it in lightly so it's easy to digest so that I'm not going to trigger anybody at midnight right before they go to bed and make it so that they can't sleep all night. My intent is to have, right, a bedtime story, a sense of company, a sense of of unity, right? A unit, like I can't say it's a family because we are all so far away and we are so different. And in truth, like I said, I come in here and I don't share everything, right? So we don't any of us truly know each other, right? But it's nice as we move along, if we're paying attention, if we're willing to connect in small ways, that we can pick up little things, make it so that we can build a relationship. And even though it's not a friendship, right? Best friends, maybe it's not like family, right? Probably wouldn't fit up so well sitting at your table at Christmas, especially if you were a Muslim, right? Right? Or me going into one of your celebrations, right? And I've been lucky enough to be invited, right? In this digital age, we're this close now. And so, I don't have to go to the other side of the world in order to experience a tradition, to experience something special and cultural that, right, that I might not have ever experienced and I might not ever experience again. But wouldn't it be neat if I experienced it once and then I wanted to consistently experience it in my life? But that opportunity wouldn't be there unless it came across my path. And what are the chances without this digital age, without this age of AI, right? AI learning, that we're able, right, to do it now. And I think this is why so many of us are waking up to bright ideas, why we need a little bit more space in our craniums to hold those big brains of ours, because we are, right, we are not compressing files, right? But this is the next stage of evolution. And every stage moving forward has adjusted. Some have disappeared, like the Neanderthal and the Homo erectus and the Denisovans, but pieces of them still survive in our own DNA. And what I say that, that it takes all kinds to make the world. And just because, I'm a little bit different than you and you're a little bit different than the person standing next to you or every single member in your family, right? It doesn't mean that you don't matter. It doesn't mean that you can't create the best, most exciting, fabulous life for yourself, created by you, for you. You wouldn't like my life, right? Well, maybe you would. I think it's pretty fun. But a lot of it is not fun. It is in that balance of good and bad. It's in that whistle while you work. It's in that never give up. It's in that try again, and it's right. It's in the forgiveness, and it's in that willing to try, right? And not just willing to try, but just willing, right? Because sometimes some of the things that we're right expected to absorb, we don't have to try because that evidence, just like that Denisovan, is just going to be slap dab in your face, right? So we just have to be able to be willing to be able to absorb something that we know now to be a truth, and somehow, some way, you'll fit it into the story of your life, right? You will. Most people will. And some people will go, okay, that's the truth. Well, then, which direction do I move in? Because, I believe this way. And I used to think this way. I kind of sort of lost now, right? Well, good thing you're hanging out with me, right? Because I am non denominational. I believe it takes all kinds to make the world. And life is what happens to us while we're making other plans, right? I guess I live my life a little bit by those quotes myself. My dad was big on them. I never thought that I would be, right? Big on them myself, but a few of them have played a hard game in my life, right? And I have to say, in the practice, in getting better at that game, I've gotten better at that game. You guys, I have no idea what the topic of this one is. So, how about if we just pull a card? We'll just pull a card and we'll go into it for a couple of minutes. First perspective on the card that I pull here. I have 54 powerful words. Uh, First perspective, first thing that comes to my mind, munch on it for a couple of minutes, and then off we go. I have to be up tomorrow by 7, and I'll be running from 7 until I get home tomorrow night. So thank goodness it's Saturday. I won't be online at all tomorrow. Okay, here's the card. Ha! What were we talking about, you guys? It's so crazy sometimes. They just come out with the most perfect cards. And this has been a word for me this week. It's been popping up everywhere. It's a very important word. It is in that willingness, right? We are so stubborn. Let me have a sip on this. I'm about to go into willingness. Mm. Okay, we have to be willing, you guys. Even for myself, just even in this week, I am being asked, and I'm not even being asked, I'm just being presented to. And in being presented to, I'm being asked at that point to take into consideration a different possibility, right? No, right? I'm saying to myself, right? I don't want to go that way. Right? That looks hard. That doesn't look fun. That's not going to be the party that I thought my life was going to be. And yet, you see how I'm laughing in that. But I'm only laughing because I know, right, that if that's the way that I'm going to be moving, not saying that I am willing, right, in this digital age, and what I don't understand and what I don't know, I am willing. I'm willing. I'm willing to take a look. I'm willing to get in there and play with it. I'm willing to wear it a little while. I'm willing to contemplate on it. Guys, and in the end, I'm willing to move towards it a little bit, right? If I'm being pulled, because it's what comes across my path. That's what I work with, right? That's what I move along. And I understand that as I keep moving along, right, stuff will just keep coming across my path. It has right from the beginning. It just keeps coming across my path. And for the most part, I get to say yes, no, yes, no, no, yes, yeah, no, right? And I do this. And sometimes I have to go in because I go, oh, right? And this question, this look, the curiosity, the question itself, the uncertainty, or even the thought of the possibility, it means I have to take a look at it. I have to be willing. I have to be willing to take a look at it, right? At the very least, just be willing to, right? Even if I don't, even if, right, whatever is coming at me, right, it's making me agitated, kind of tick me off, right? But those most often are the ones that will serve you the best, right? And I have found that over and over and over again, right? Some of my favorite content creators out there, I would have to say, I said, what? Phooey? No way. A-hole. First time coming into their content. I don't think so. Right? And then find, because you know how YouTube is, you watch something once, they'll introduce you to a couple of more pieces of that content creator's content. And so sometimes in being willing, right, you have to give a creator another shot, especially when they're flowing in some of those same categories that you're flowing in, right? Even if they're slightly different. But be willing, because that's where the lessons are. And especially in those ones that kind of agitate you, that kind of tick you off. I found those ones, there's always something in there for me. If nothing else, resolution, understanding, but more often than not, it's a new perspective, right? And that takes the willingness to move in what you don't understand. Okay, what does it say here? It was really simple. Willingness often requires willingness, right? Often requires willingness. Just, right? Just be willing. Not willing for anything, but just willing. Now, if you're getting a headache, right? If it's you'll know, right? There's a sense about it that brings in the curiosity. And if the curiosity is attached to it, that's when you move towards it, right? Don't get yourself willing to go into a bad neighborhood, right? Just because you, right, looking to get home fast and, oh, okay, I'm willing to, right? Keep yourself safe in that. Okay, you guys, that's all I've got for you tonight. I'm going spinning in this. And you know what? We got a busy weekend coming up. It's going to serve me well. I put a high expectation, a goal set for myself. I sure would love to be able to pay off my campsites for my September trip. That will take a big cost and a big, right? Get those things off of your plate so that things can be positive, so things aren't heavy, so things that aren't stressful, so that we're not worrying. And wouldn't that be amazing? Wouldn't that be another chink? Wouldn't that be another smile? Wouldn't that be another sense of accomplishment? Wouldn't that be another step forward to achieving a dream, if not the dream? Okay, you guys, have a great night. We'll see you Sunday. If you want to pop in, 7:30 Central, come in. Chatters Live. My crew chats more than I do. Amazing crew. Come in, say hi. If you don't want to say hi, that's good. Just hang out in the background. You're good with that too, you guys, right? If not, I'll be back on Monday. Have a great night. Have a good sleepy, or have a great day.